Hey everybody, I'm back. Sorry I haven't done my videos in the last 2 weeks, especially the beginning of the NFL season, but I was in London on another vacation, but I'm back now. Also, I was fighting, I was under the weather a little bit, but I'm back, ready to give some analysis on some Ravens football from week 1 and week 2. But first, I want to address what's been happening with the Orioles for the last week. For those of us who are Oriole fans, we've noticed they've been playing the Red Sox for 4 games. They came into this series, I think, only 2 games behind in the AL East. And as of today, they are right now 5 games behind the AL East with only, I think, 10 games to go. Adam Jones last night stated that he was upset with the fact that the fans aren't showing up to the Orioles games, and the fact that they're in a playoff hunt. They said they've been busting their butt for 145 games, and now fans aren't showing up. What's the deal? He said it's felt disrespectful and all this other stuff. And I'll tell you what's disrespectful: the fact that it's September with almost 2 weeks left of baseball, and you guys can't seem to close the gap between the Red Sox. You had 4 games. Tonight's number 4. You have 4 games to potentially just take the lead in the AL East and maybe run away with it, but you didn't. You fumbled. You're not hitting. You're 186 batting average in the last 5 games. That's not cutting it. Hitting the home run ball all season was great. It was fun to look at. But when it comes to winning in September and October in baseball, you got to be able to play small ball, and the Orioles haven't done it. Remarkably, minus I think 1 game so far in the series, the pitching has actually done pretty well to keep the Orioles in the game, but the bats haven't been able to score runs. They just haven't. And for Adam Jones to come out and say, and I'm a fan of Adam Jones, but I'm going to have to just disagree with him on this for the simple fact that he's like, why aren't fans coming out? Well, I'll tell him exactly. It's this right here. This right here, Ravens. For the last 16 years, while the Orioles were down in the AL East cellar, since '96, the Ravens come into town that same year. Ravens come into town, and they weren't good for a few years, but then they won a Super Bowl in 2001. They have since won another Super Bowl. They have won 2 in my lifetime. I have yet to see an Orioles World Series championship in my lifetime. The last time the Orioles won was 33 years ago. I am 30 years old. So for Adam Jones, this is the reason why our fans aren't showing up. Because we are not going to be funneled back into, we're not going to be put back into that zone where we're okay with mediocrity again. Okay, I was listening to 105.7 coming home from work today, and they kept saying, "Oh, the Orioles have winning records now the last 4 out of 5 seasons, and they've done really well. We should be going out and supporting that team." That's great and everything, but they've made the playoffs twice. They made it a wild card time, and they won the division last time. Where did it end up? Nowhere. They got knocked out in the divisional round after the wild card by the Yankees. And then they sweep the Detroit Tigers and then get swept by the Kansas City Royals in the American League Championship Series. So I think a lot of us Oriole fans are not going to now just start to accept the fact that, they have a winning record, but they still might not make the playoffs, so it means they had a really good season. No. If you're supposed to be a playoff contender, you're supposed to make the playoffs, or at least make an effort. At this point in time right now, the Orioles are not making an effort. They're barely holding on to the second wild card spot. And a lot of us fans don't have even enough faith in the team because we saw what they did in the offseason with pitching. They didn't do anything to bolster their pitching unit, and it's starting to show now. We're starting to rely on Ubaldo Jimenez, who is inconsistent most times, and 2 young arms in Kevin Gausman and Dylan Bundy. They may be great, I think by next year or 2 years from now. But as of right now, they're still having some learning problems, and they're still on the curve, and it's going to take a little time for them to be consistently good. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to happen, but not with this club. So the reason why fans aren't showing up to the games for the Orioles is that we just become sick of it. The Orioles have and the ownership have not been respecting the fans, not putting a good product on the field for years and years and years. And here we are again, not getting our hopes up because it's like, oh, here we go again. The Orioles can't seem to close it out, and it looks like the wheels are falling off again. Now, granted, they may make the playoffs. We'll see. If they get the playoffs, I'm all in for you guys. But the reason why fans are showing up is because the Ravens are now playing football again. And regardless of what happens with the Ravens season to season, they put out there and tell us that, hey, this team has gone to the playoffs. This team has won championships and can do it again. We know we have a better chance of winning a championship with the Ravens than we do with the Orioles right now. We just don't see it. We don't see the investment made into the Orioles that Ozzie Newsome and Steve Bisciotti have made into the Ravens. We don't see it from Peter Angelos. So forgive us for not coming out there and supporting, the team every day, especially during a weekday when people have work in the morning and people have kids in school right now. People have other obligations. I'm sorry that, regardless of the fans are out there or not, you still should be as a competitor out there competing and trying to beat the Red Sox. If you're going to be a top-notch team, you need to be hitting at strides right now. Not falling backwards. You need to be hitting your stride right now. This is not the time to start going through your slump or whatever like that. Hitting the home run ball is great, but when you're not hitting the home run ball, as we saw from the last couple years of the Orioles, they set records and they hit the long ball they hit the long ball more than anybody this season, and may end up not in the playoffs. So what does that matter? So get together, O's. You got 10 games left. I'm pushing for you guys, but you can't start blaming the fans for not coming out if you guys aren't winning. We're done. Orioles fans, we're done coming to games and you guys just stinking it up. We expect better from the Orioles. So go out there and do it. Anyway, now that that's over, I'm going to start off with the Ravens. Week 1, looking at the Browns. The Bills game. Like I said, I was in London, so I wasn't able to see the highlight, to see the games, the whole games. And I saw some highlights and read some analysis on the games and things. From what I saw, it took the offense a little bit, obviously, to get started. 1 touchdown was scored for the Ravens. That ended up being the difference to Mike Wallace. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him, especially. He scored 3 touchdowns now in 2 games. He's become Flacco's favorite target, minus Pitta. Him and Flacco have a good rapport already in week 2. And they still have tons of targets. They got Chris Moore. You still got Kamar Aiken. Still got Steve Smith. You got Pitta, Max Williams, Crockett Gilmore. You got Juszczyk out of the backfield. Still got Bashar Perriman now, who's playing really well. He played him at a phenomenal catch in the Bills game. So once they get that going, I think the passing offense will be very, very potent for the Ravens. The running game has been struggling for the last 2 weeks, as I've seen. They cannot seem to get anybody that seems over 50, 60 yards total in the game. And, Buck Allen hasn't really played. It's really just been a 2-back system with Terrence West and Justin Forsett. There are 2 new rookies now. You got Ronnie Stanley, and I can't the left guard's name on the left side of the line. They're doing great in pass, but they're not really, it seems to be able to grasp the run scheme too well. You have Juan Castillo there, who ran the zone offense, but then you got Mark Trestman, who's the coordinator, doesn't like running the zone blocking scheme, and that's what Forsett thrives on. That's what he thrived on when the Ravens got him, and it's not working out wherever this new system is. But it's week 2, and they got the Jaguars coming up, and I'll do another separate video for that. But for the Ravens, running game has always been a staple for the Ravens. So they have to figure that out and figure it out quickly. Because there's going to be times, just like I just talked about the Orioles, there are going to be times when the pass isn't working. You're going to come against a good secondary, a good team that can cover the pass, and you're not going to be able to get away with throwing the ball down the field 40 times a game. You're going to be able to run the ball, especially come later in the fall and into the winter. You're going to be able to need to run the ball when it gets really cold. And for the Ravens, for the running game, especially, instead of being a pastime just for the Baltimore Ravens, we have been known to produce good running backs. So they got to be able to get Mark Trestman out of that mindset where he was in Chicago and he was able to just kind of throw the ball to Matt Forte. He's not doing that here in Baltimore. So they got to be able to work together. And I don't know if it's Harbaugh or one of the other running back coaches or something. Offensive line coaches need to work together to find some way that they can be able to run the ball effectively, especially 3rd and 1, and I'm gonna be able to convert all those 3rd-and-1s on passes. If you're not converting the 3rd-and-1s on runs, and the defense knows that going into that week, they're playing the pass every single time. So they got to be able to convert those on run plays. It beats up the defense. It gives our defense times to relax, and it just keeps the other defense winded and on the field. When you pound it 7 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, break a 20, 7 yards, 6, stuff like that. When you do things like that and you shorten it down to 2nd and 3 instead of 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11 for a loss of yardage, and you're putting yourself in a hole already, and now you only got another down to work with, it puts you in a very tight spot. So they need to just go ahead and get it together on the run scheme. I think they need to go ahead and try to go back to the zone game. Maybe they don't have the personnel to run the zone blocking scheme with the personnel they have, but they got to find something that works. Whether that even if you got to manufacture like a run play kind of where you got to do a little screen pass or a little dump off or something where the running back runs behind the defensive line and catches the ball 3 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage. Something like that where you can get the running backs involved and running down the field. You got to do something like that. And it keeps the defense guessing at that point. You become a one-dimensional team eventually. After week 3, week 4, teams are like, all right, they're just throwing the ball. They're not really running the ball that well. Let's make them beat us with the run because they can't beat anybody else with it. You got to be able to find that run game soon. The defense, I'm not saying they look like the defense of old, like the 2000 Ravens defense or the Ray Lewis and Ed Reed-led defenses, but they look steady so far. They did give up a bad run against the Browns with Isaiah Crowell went like 84 yards for the line of scrimmage. That was atrocious. But they've had a guy, Michael Pierce, on the defensive line that's looked really good. He's impressed. He was an undrafted rookie. The Ravens always seem to be able to find a guy like that. They found Kamar Aiken like that. They've always been able to find that guy that can maybe a diamond in the rough that can contribute to the team in a positive way. And they're not. I mean, apparently, they were able to hit McCown so many times that he's not even playing this coming week. He's out. So I think that's the key. We saw what happened last season. That the Ravens defense, minus the injuries and stuff, didn't have that same intensity that they were used to seeing from Ravens defense, AFC North defense for that matter. And the fact that they were out there hitting Josh McCown. And if anybody who watches football knows that even if you don't get a sack on a quarterback, if you're able to hit him enough times, he's going to start getting gun-shy. He starts hurting a bit, starts limping back to that sideline, he's going to start getting rid of that ball pretty quick or start making errant passes. But the key is they've been getting to the quarterback. That has been positive, that they've been getting to the quarterback, something they didn't do last year. So eventually those quarterback hits will start turning into sacks eventually. Eric Weddle has definitely been a great addition to that secondary. We've definitely seen a change in how they're lining up with guys, and he's putting cornerbacks where they need to be based on what he sees a lot of the offensive lining up as. So he's definitely a general out there on the defense, helping with the secondary. Definitely what we lost when we lost Ed Reed. So he's definitely helped in that mindset. Ladarius Webb has kind of looked, he's trying to struggle to become a free safety. He doesn't really tackle that well. He didn't when he was at cornerback. But I guess it's not really the job of a free safety to tackle. It's more of a strong safety position. But, you got to be able, you're the last line of defense. You got to be able to stop guys from getting to the end zone. So I guess, just by necessity, he's going to have to learn how to wrap up or push the guy out of bounds or something. He's going to have to learn to do something there. The Ravens, like I said, have the Jaguars coming up. The Jaguars are now 0-2. They have not won a game yet. This is a team that everybody was talking about coming into the season as a dark horse team, that they had a lot of young talent. The defense was pretty steady, especially with Jalen Ramsey, Miles Jack, and Dante Fowler on the team. It looked like they were going to be it, and they haven't really performed that well. Granted, they are, as I said, a very young team, so it's going to take a few years. They still have a very potent offense, though. You still got Allen Hurns, you still got Allen Robinson. Blake Bortles has proven himself to be a efficient quarterback. I haven't said he's a great quarterback. Hasn't taken his team to that level yet, but he's proven that he's able to handle the pressure as far as putting his team in position to win football games. But I think, him still being a young quarterback, the Ravens need to take advantage of that. With Dumerville possibly coming back this week, coming on setting that edge, him and Suggs, got to be able to put pressure on it. If you put pressure on a quarterback early in the football game, you have the advantage at that point. Whoever, in any sport, whoever dictates the pace in the early parts of the game usually wins. So that's why it's always important for the Ravens in defense to set that tone early. Like, hey, this is gonna be a rough day for you, pal. We're gonna be back here all day. Like, we're gonna be back here more than your players are in the huddle. Like, we're gonna be in your face. You're gonna be on the ground. You'll be running from us all day. If you set that tone early, okay, that's right for interceptions, fumbles, just controlling the game. And I think for the Ravens' sake, they have to go ahead and do that. That is key, I think, coming for this game, and every game coming in from that point on. This game is also where they got to get the run game going. Got to get the run game going early. Don't wait until the second quarter like we saw in the Browns game where they were down 20-2, and then all of a sudden they got back together. They got to be able to come out strong in these football games where no one's going to take them seriously. They got to come out and start putting points on the board early. And I'm not talking about 3 points and 10 points. I'm talking if you can put 14 up in the first half, 21 maybe, do stuff like that. Beat up teams you're expected to beat. This has been a theme for the Ravens since they've been a team since '96. Is that they always play down to their opponents. They never play to the level they're expected to play. They'll play up to They'll play up to the Steelers, and they'll play up to the Patriots, and they'll play up to the Broncos and those teams. But teams are expected to whoop by 30 points, they end up having close games with the Browns. There we go. There's no reason why they should be in a tight match with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They should be able to beat this team. This is a good young team, but they're still very young. Okay, they still are not as experienced as the Ravens are with guys like Mike Wallace and Steve Smith. Okay, and Marshall Yanda and those guys in the line, and Joe Flacco at quarterback is a Super Bowl MVP. You got the defensive subs at Dumerville. You got Eric Weddle. There's no reason, and even Ladarius Webb, there's no reason why that Ravens team should not just dominate the Jacksonville Jaguars this game. But based on what I've seen in the past, I think it's going to be another close game. I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game, to be honest, just because I think the Ravens secondary is going to get a very tough challenge from Allen Hurns, Julius Thomas, the tight end, and Allen Robinson this weekend. So I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game. I think the Ravens pull it out, though. I do think it's going to be around, 28-21, something like that, 28-24, something around there. Ravens win. But I think the Ravens are going to give us some touchdowns this week. So if you got the Ravens in defense in your fantasy, I wouldn't do it this week. So I think they're going to put up some points on the Ravens. And likewise, I think the Ravens are going to put up points on them. But it depends on who gets the tone early. If it's enough quarterback hits on Blake Bortles, and they can stop the run game and make them a one-dimensional team, they got a shot there definitely. But they got to score early and make them play catch up. Don't play catch up to a good powered offense. Where if they get the Jaguars are an offense kind of team where if you let them up by 14, you may not get it back because they're going to keep scoring. They found the formula. They're going to keep scoring. They have good young wide receivers. And the Julius Thomas, who was a Pro Bowl tight end at Denver. So, there you go. But anyway, that's my spiel for right now. I think I kind of gave a preview already for the Jaguars, but I'll still do one anyway. Probably Saturday. I'll probably do one Saturday, a little bit more, after I find out some injuries and things like that. But that's been my spiel for today, and I will see you guys probably Monday after the game. All right, peace.